The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening to me on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you can download the Radio Lex app on your smartphone device to listen to the show from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is February the 20th, 2025. Folks, you know, I have been having a little bit of side pain, and I Googled what is wrong with my side, and it actually scared me to death. Never, anytime you have any symptom of any kind, never trust Google. Don't go to Google, because it's just going to put you down a rabbit hole. For instance, I said I had side pain in Google, and Google spit it out and said that one of the possible causes of side pain is pancreatic cancer. So I was like, whoa, I got to turn this off. I'm hoping that that's the extreme and that's not what it is. But pain of any kind just makes anybody worry. And the older we get, the more I feel like the pain we feel in our bodies, just from natural progression of age. And there are certain kinds of pain that is different than others. Some things hurt worse than other things. And I started thinking about my side pain, and I started thinking about the other pains that people feel. And I really do feel for people that are in pain all of the time. People who constantly have to fight pain in their bodies. And I read an article the other day, and the article was talking about pain. And it started talking about the different types of pain that people feel. They called this article the underestimated kind of pain that you'll only understand if you have experienced it yourself. So here is a list of different pains that people say that are underestimated kinds of pain. And you'll never know what it's like until you feel this type of pain. Now, this is emotional pain and physical pain. So, for instance, one person says that one of the most underestimated kinds of pain that you could ever feel is a gallbladder attack. One person says that it was far worse than any child that she brought into the world, far worse than any contraction that she had in the world was gallbladder pain. One person said losing a pet. I hate to say this, but one of the reasons I don't have a pet right now is for the fear of losing that pet, because I don't want my pet to die. Think about, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? To be afraid to get close to something because you're afraid that it's going to die. That's exactly what's going to happen to your pet. They only last 13, 15 years max, but they say the grief that you have for your pet once they die is almost like losing a family member, maybe even equivalent to that, because really your pet is your best friend. Sometimes people love their pets more than they do actual human beings in their life. Chronic pain is another pain that people say that you will never really understand it until you go through it. I met a guy one time who dealt with chronic pain, and I told him to take a Tylenol to maybe help with his pain, and he said, "Oh, Adam, I'm way past Tylenol." And he said that, and I kind of laughed at it, but I didn't realize the words that he was saying back to me when he said that he was way past Tylenol, meaning he has to rely on stronger medicine just to get through the day. And unfortunately, his pain caught up to him. Domestic violence is a pain that people say is so underestimated. when you feel that pain, and you'll never understand it until you feel it yourself. They say it causes CPTSD, which is very common from people in law enforcement. They say it's very common for people in law enforcement to be involved in domestic violence. And if you've ever had to experience domestic violence, that's a hard pain emotionally and physical to go through, because you constantly have to worry about going home. Or am I going to get slapped in the face when I go home? Is it going to be a fight when I go home? Is it, mentally that will drain you. Physically, it could hurt you. So I could see having that much weight of pain and emotional pain being almost unbearable to handle. Another undescribable pain that people say, an underestimated kind of pain rather, would be mutually being in love with somebody and everything is going great, and then one day they just decide that they don't love you anymore. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than that. You love somebody, everything's going great, and then they decide one day that they don't feel the same. I would say a quick, swift kick in the face would be more tolerable than having that happen. Passing kidney stones, they say, is another underestimated kind of pain. I've never had kidney stones. I've been in emergency rooms where patients have come in where they've had kidney stones, and I have literally seen grown men crawling on the floor, bracing themselves. I seen one man, he didn't have to say anything to the nurse. He just had to look at her, and she could tell by his face that he needed morphine immediately. Another kind of underestimated pain, they say, that you will never understand until you go through it, is grief. And we talked about grief of a pet, but here in particularly, I'm talking about grief of a human being. Somebody that you've had in your life, a friend, a spouse, a loved one of any kind, and you lose them. That's an emotional pain that is very, very incredible. Opioid withdrawal, they say, is a very hard pain to have to go through. Nobody understands it until you have to go through it. You see people sweating and shaking and vomiting and in pain all over. And that's what their body is doing, because it's normal for them to have that drug in their system. They've become so addicted that they have to have that drug in their system just to be or feel normal. So in order to get off of it, you really have to put yourself through a lot of pain. Slip discs, as they say, is another pain that's almost unimaginable until you have felt it. A tonsillotomy as an adult, getting your tonsils removed. Sinus pain is another one. Sinus pain is something that I have to deal with. It is absolutely debilitating when you get it. It puts you down. If there is one thing that can put me down for the count, 1, 2, 3, that is a migraine or some type of sinus pain. I can't focus, I can't talk, I can't think, I can't listen. And then another person says that having to deal with gender dysphoria is a very painful thing to have to go through. And I can understand that. I do not doubt that there are people out there that feel like that they should be a man or should be a woman. I don't doubt your feelings. And I could only imagine how you feel having that inside of you, knowing that. That has to be a very painful thing to have to go through because of the complications of society, the complications maybe with your religion. So that is a very emotional pain to have to go through. And then finally, another person says, and this is ridiculous, but constipation. If you've ever had real constipation, that is a pain. That is a pain that is very underestimated. And I can see, I mean, think about it. You've had to use the bathroom before. If you've ever had to hold it in, that hurts. Imagine holding it in for 10 days straight or 14 days straight. It just builds up and builds up and builds up. Talk about pain, folks. There are all kinds of different underestimated pains out there, but those were just a few of them. If there is an underestimated pain that maybe I didn't say from the list, put it on the show thread and we'll talk about it. But I found that very interesting. Pain of any kind, emotional or physical, just sucks. But that was just a few underestimated kinds of pain that you'll only understand if you have experienced them yourself. self. Folks, we have a great show coming at you live right after these words. We got more off the cuff. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. This definitely doesn't seem to be the best time to fly. So many aviation accidents over the last couple of weeks. The latest that has been sweeping every headline across the news is the Delta Airlines flight that flipped up on the roof, literally flipped upside down when landing. It was a crash landing, they would say, at Toronto Pearson International Airport. It flipped upside down and caught fire on the runway. But here's the remarkable thing about this, folks. The 80 people that was on board, 76 passengers and the 4 crew members, they all survived this plane crash. Now, how often do you hear about people surviving a plane crash? That's exactly what this happened. It was a crash landing. When a plane flips upside down, that is a crash landing. And that's what happened to these people, and everybody on board survived. You would think the plane would explode, and that's what they thought would happen. That's why they were spraying the daylights out of that plane when it landed on its roof. But it was absolutely unbelievable that everybody on board survived that flight. They were flying from Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport in Minnesota to Toronto. They safely made it to Toronto until they hit the runway when the wing caught fire and ended up making the plane lose course and flip on its bottom. I mean, literally upside down. 21 people did sustain injuries, 3 critical injuries, a child and 2 adults, a man in his 60s and a woman in her 40s. The remaining 18 individuals had non-life-threatening injuries. I mean, absolutely amazing. Passengers were evacuated from the flight, and flight attendants played a very crucial role in helping everybody evacuate in an orderly manner. You hear about all of the trainings that flight attendants have to go through in situations like this, and it's amazing when you have to see them go to work and do that kind of thing, because they train for something like that, and they have so much training on it, hoping it never happens. And some people spend their whole aviation career without any disaster, so they never have to put that into practice. So the fact that they did it so well when they actually had to use that knowledge that they were trained on is pretty impressive. Now, here's the thing. When this plane crashed, the plane was full of people from all generations, Gen Z being one of them, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Maybe this was a millennial. I can't just hate on the Gen Zs, but one of the girls from the flight decided the first thing that she wanted to do was jerk out her cell phone and to let everybody know, hey, I was in a plane crash. And think about it, literally jerked out her phone after being in a plane crash to go live to tell people, hey, I was in a plane crash. Attention seeking? Much? I mean, my goodness. Take a listen. I found the clip here of her talking about it. Here it is.
I was just in a plane crash. Oh my God.
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. We're all getting off. Some smoke going on.
So that was one woman saying I was in a plane crash, and then you had another guy on there just pretty much saying the same thing, just kind of recording. And I get it. You were experiencing a very traumatic thing. Who knows how you're going to react? And of course you may want to document something so historical or something so impactful that happened in your life. But man, it's just amazing that in the midst of even facing death, people will still take the time to post to social media to let their followers see them in distress. Unbelievable. But flying just doesn't seem the best. It doesn't seem like the best choice right now. I don't know what's going on. Call it a coincidence or not. It's just very scary. And any time that you get up in an airplane, it draws anxiety anyway. But hearing all of these commercial accidents happening is not something that we're very much used to here in the country. But I do love to fly. I do enjoy it. I know that it's the quickest way to get someplace. And I love a good pilot. I love a pilot that is confident, a pilot that is seasoned, a pilot that has over 100,000 flying hours. That's my type of pilot. I like for my pilot to have a little gray in his hair, a few little gray in his whiskers. It just makes me feel more confident. And I love it when the pilot gets on the intercom for some reason. Anytime a pilot gets on an intercom, it just puts me at ease. It lets me know that, hey, my captain, who is flying this plane, is talking to me. And if he's talking to me and I can hear a calm in his voice, it makes me feel calm. But what you don't want to hear, folks, is your pilot come on the intercom and say things that you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear your pilot come on the intercom and say things that will stress you out. And it made me start thinking of other people's flying experience. Everybody's got a flying experience if you have flown. And some people have maybe experienced a bad flight where the pilot had to come on the intercom to make a bad announcement, maybe to brace for impact, maybe to warn you of upcoming turbulence. So I started doing some research and looking at former flights that people have taken. And what I have done here is found a bunch of situations, basically, where, and I would like to call this segment, announcements you never want to hear from your pilot. Announcements that you never want to hear from your pilot. And I have found numerous videos online of different situations that people have experienced while flying. And in each situation, their pilot comes on the intercom and makes an announcement that is very scary or very uneasy, and pretty much an announcement you never want to hear from your pilot. And we'll start the list with my first example here of a plane in Alaska. And this plane here in Alaska was an Alaskan airline plane, and they were flying to Australia. And the pilot noticed that there was something wrong with the plane, and the plane started shaking, literally like a washing machine. It started shaking, and it did this for an hour and a half straight, shaking like it was going to break apart. Well, you would think the pilot would come on the intercom, try to calm the people down, but instead, he gets on the intercom and tells them to pray because their survival depends on it. Take a listen.
Please pay attention, and also please listen to everything. Our survival depends on your cooperating.
Think about that. He said, please pay attention to me and pray because your survival depends on listening to everything that I say. Now, eventually, the plane landed after an hour and 30 minutes of it shaking, and it landed safely with everybody being okay. But could you imagine your pilot coming on and telling you to pray? Well, at least you know he has faith. So maybe that can put you at ease. Here's another example. Here's another situation where passengers had an announcement from a pilot that you never want to hear. And in this situation, the plane was going to Los Angeles, and there was a big, loud boom when it landed. And what that boom was an engine failure. And the pilot comes on and tells the passengers, hey, my engine just failed. Take a listen.
As we're coming back to Los Angeles, we continued to have the fuel problem. But on the way below 10,000 feet or so, which is about 4 minutes before landing, our left engine decided to quit. But the right engine was great. We had a nice, eventful, nice, smooth landing. So I've been flying 35 years. This is my first engine failure.
Holy shit.
Can you imagine that, folks? That was my first engine failure. I've actually been on a plane where the engine failed. Yeah, I was coming back from Florida to Lexington, and we were getting ready to take off on the runway, and the engine failed. And we had to make an emergency stop, and it made the news. I got interviewed by the news because of it. But this situation was no different, except instead of the engine failing on takeoff, it failed on landing. And the pilot come on to say, hey, that loud banging that you heard was the engine failing. That's what it was. But at least it had a happy ending. Nobody died. But here's another situation, folks, of an announcement that you never want to hear your pilot say. And in this situation, this is an American Airlines pilot that comes on the intercom and says that, you know what? He doesn't have a good feeling about flying. So he decides to cancel the flight, which is ultimately the best thing to do if you don't feel confident. But this is still something you never want to hear your pilot say, regardless if he's going to cancel it or not. Take a listen.
Flight deck, look, a little update here. The aircraft is being observed, so to speak, because oil pressure on the number 2 engine is trending upwards. And the aircraft is going to require, actually it's the fuel pressure, fuel system filter replacement when the aircraft gets back from Hawaii. They've told us that the plane's good to go, but I'm not really feeling it. I'm not going to leave the ground if I'm not completely certain that we have an airworthy aircraft, so I'm going to probably err on the side of caution, and I'm refusing the aircraft. So what that means for you right now, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if we have another airplane here at the airport, but I hate to do this to you, but this is one of those tough calls that I have to make, and I feel a lot more comfortable making this call than flying 6 hours over the water and maybe having an issue. Anyway, that's where things stand now. I apologize for that. Your morning hasn't been so good. We do appreciate your patience, though. We're going to have everybody deplane the aircraft here.
So there you go. You know what? Seriously, if he didn't feel confident, I respect the fact that he was like, you know what? I just don't have 100% confidence. So instead of gambling with 180 souls on board, you make the right decision to just say, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. But regardless, you don't ever want to hear your pilot come on the intercom and say something like that. All right, and the final situation that I will play is where a female pilot decides to get on the intercom before the flight takes off and go on a tyrant of some kind. And Inside Edition picked up this story. And this woman decides that she is, I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know if she's had a bad day. I don't know if she's medicated. I don't know if it's just her husband made her mad. Her girlfriend made her mad. I don't know what it was. But this pilot gets on the intercom and kind of just chastises the people on the plane. She starts talking about politics. She starts talking about things that make no sense, and it kind of scared the passengers. This is definitely not something that you want to hear over the intercom from your pilot when you are on the plane. Inside Edition picked up the story, and I am going to play a clip from Inside Edition as they talk about this situation. Take a listen.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, get off the airplane. But
this is your captain speaking, okay. But never like this.
I'll stop, and we'll fly the airplane. Don't worry, I'm going to let my co-pilot fly it. He's a man. Okay?
It's a total meltdown. The pilot boarded in her street clothes and addressed the passengers over the intercom. Passenger Pam O'Neill couldn't believe what was happening.
She said, let's take a vote. How many of you would like to take off now with me dressed as I am, or would you prefer that I take 10 minutes to get changed into my cute little uniform? Then she started talking about her divorce and political candidates, and the minute she mentioned that, a gentleman stood up and just yelled, whoa, enough, you're scaring me.
Another passenger, Randy Reese, got up to leave and gave a running commentary on social media.
Unbelievable. And anytime you feel like your pilot is off the rails or off her hinges, you don't want her in control of that aircraft. But folks, I'll end this with an announcement that you do want to hear over the intercom from your pilot. Everyone who flies that has anxiety from it. It makes you feel better, like I said, when you hear your pilot calm you. Or at least it does for me. I shouldn't say it's like that for everybody. But this pilot, some flight attendant must have went and told him that there were some passengers that were really anxious about the flight, because he gets on the intercom and says this. And this, folks, is what you do want to hear from your pilot on the intercom. Take a listen.
Maybe fearful about flying, and that's certainly understandable, but just please know that my first officer and our flight attendants and myself place your safety and the responsibility of carrying you to Miami, to your families, your vacations, your meetings, at the highest level. I have no higher calling than carefully and professionally transporting you today. So with that, relax and enjoy the beautiful evening that we get to fly in. We'll be underway shortly. Welcome aboard.
I mean, think about that. That would make me feel comfortable. He said, I love the fact that he said, I have no higher calling than to get you to your destination safely. And if I hear a man say that to me, you know what? I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you. But there you go, folks. That is some announcements that you never want to hear from your pilot. Announcements that you never want to hear from your pilot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stick with us. We still have lots more Off the Cuff Without a Banks coming at you live after these words. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Good old Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. Folks, Jimi Hendrix actually made his splash in the music industry on this day in history back in 1959. Everybody knows Jimi Hendrix. He is the rock and roll guitarist. But he played his first gig ever on February the 20th, 1959. He played in a place in Seattle, and he was fired from the band after they said that his playing was too wild for them. Jimi Hendrix has a lot of bangers, and he is a wild man, so I can understand if he's not everybody's cup of tea. But yes, today is a big day in the history of Jimi Hendrix. Today's the day he made his debut in the music industry. But folks, there are a lot of things that have happened on this day in history, February the 20th. For instance, in 1768 was the first American chartered fire insurance company to ever open, and it opened in Pennsylvania. That's when fire insurance was first given out. Imagine having a house and not being able to buy insurance for it if it ever burned down. That didn't happen until the 1700s, when a company in Pennsylvania decided to put the first fire insurance company in America. On this day in history, 1792, is when the U.S. Postal Service created postage stamps, and they first were priced at 6 to 12 cents, depending on the difference. On this day in history, February 20th, 1944, Batman and Robin comic strip premieres in newspapers. Batman has been around since the 40s, but it was on this day in 1944 that they very first appeared in newspapers. Many people probably didn't know that Batman was originated from newspaper articles, newspaper strips. A lot of your famous comic books were from newspaper strips, and they became so popular in newspapers that people just started making comic books out of the stories, and eventually movies and TV shows and so on and so on. On this day in history, February 20th, 1972, is the first time the Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the New York Knicks in the NBA 111 to 109. And that, folks, is all the things that happened on this day in history. This seems like a great place to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week. So how about a little classic for you with Frank Sinatra with You Look So Good Tonight. We'll be back after the song.
Someday
See, it doesn't have to be Christmas time for you to enjoy Frank Sinatra. He's good all throughout the year. On March 9th, the Lexington Music Awards will take place. It's the 11th annual of that event. I have been nominated for Radio DJ of the Year, and Off the Cuff has been nominated for Music Company of the Year. 2 nominations this year. I cannot believe it, and I'm very excited for it. Tickets are now available on the Lexington Music Awards website. You can click on that and order your tickets. I am not really for sure of the price. You can get all of that information on the website. I would appreciate the support if anybody wants to come, take a picture, say hi. I would love to see as many listeners that listen to the show I can. It's located at the UK Singletary Center, so it will be on UK's campus, and that's where the award show will be held. I've said this before. Being nominated is great, and so many great things can come from just being nominated, but man, it would really be nice to just win once, at least once. Then I'll be good. If I just win once, I can just take the nominations. But a win would be very nice. It happens March the 9th. It's going to be here before you know it. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I hope that you can attend the event. But folks, stick with us. We still have one more segment of Off the Cuff to go. We'll be right back.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. We were talking about the loss of losing a pet at the top of the hour and talked about how hard and difficult that would be to lose a pet because pets are so important in people's life. But folks, today's national holiday just so happens to be National Love Your Pet Day, and that is celebrated every February the 20th here across America. That's why it is National Love Your Pet Day. It's a day to embrace your pet. Embrace that one special trait that makes us human, right? It seems like everybody loves pets, loves their pets. Let's celebrate them today. It says here that the most popular pets in America, the dog, of course, is the most popular. Cat is the second most popular. Fish is the third most popular pet that people have. I had a fish, lasted maybe 2 weeks. I think I got the water too hot. A bird is the next popular. The fifth most popular animal is a hamster, gerbil, or mouse, followed by a snake. Ugh. I just don't understand how people can have snakes as pets. When I see, the best type of snake is a dead snake. If the devil himself can manifest himself as a snake, why would anybody want to have a snake as a pet? Those things are literally evil. So, to have them as a pet, you need to get your head examined. The next popular pet is a horse, then guinea pig, then lizards, and then the least most popular pet, or I guess you could say it's popular, the number 10 most popular on the list, is a tarantula. So again, kind of the same thing with snakes. I don't get how people could enjoy having a spider crawl around on them. And plus, what kind of affection can you show a snake or a spider? I mean, you can show affection to a dog, to a cat, but I don't understand a lot of these on the list. I guess I can a horse, a bird, but a snake and a tarantula, no. Now, how do you show affection to your pet? Most people say they show affection to their pet by playing with their pets. Another person says they show affection by treating their pets with gifts. Another way that's the most popular is people say they cuddle their pets. Another way people show affection to their pets is telling their pets that they love them. Others say that they just hang out with their pet, watch TV, read books, etc. Some people say they let their pet sleep in the bed with them. I don't know about all that. I've often heard that if you allow your pet to sleep in your bed with you, that you are allowing your pet to be on the same level, and they take that as almost you're no longer the hierarchy in the relationship. They're on the same level. I've heard that in some type of psychology magazine, but I don't know. I don't know if the dog thinks that they're on your level if they sleep in your bed. That's just what I heard. Some people say that they kiss their pet. Some people say they carry on conversations with their pet. Some people say they like to go places with their pet, like the beach, road trips, etc. Some people say they show affection to their pet by dressing them up in costumes. No animal looks happy when they have a costume on, so I don't know really how effective that affection is. It says here, which pet-related characteristic do you find attractive in your dream girl or guy? Number 1 answer, someone who treats their pet like a family member. Number 2, someone who expresses outward affection to animals. Number 3, someone who is a pet parent. 4, someone who greets other people's pets at the park. Another person says someone who lets their pet sleep in their bed with them. Another person says someone who purchases gifts for their pets is a attractive characteristic. Another attractive characteristic is someone who talks to their pet in a special voice. And then another special characteristic for a person to have with their pets is someone who modifies their schedule to spend time with their pets. Cats are more popular among women than men. My dad loves dogs, but he is more of a cat person, actually. So he falls against that statistic. He is more of a cat person. He just is. National Love Your Pet Day has a few activities, things that you can do to celebrate your pet. You can show your pet something new by teaching them a trick, having them learn how to roll over, to shake your hand, or to fetch. Or be creative and think of a new trick to show them. It's just a way for you to spend time with your pet. When you're trying to show them a new trick, I don't know why I can't say the word trick. When you're trying to show them a trick, that is spending time with them, and they enjoy that. Above all else, they just like spending time with you. You could spoil them, buy them gifts, buy them treats, let them eat things that they normally don't get to eat. Or you could adopt a pet today. If you have no pet, today's the day to adopt one. If you want another one and pets just bring joy to your life, you can never have too many pets. So you can adopt another pet. Here are some animal facts for your day. Dogs have over 1 million facial expressions. With ears and eyebrows like that, it's no wonder that they're easy to love, wouldn't you say? It says here that you can change a life by adopting. If you're looking to celebrate but don't have a pet of your own, it says that 2.7 animals are adopted every year. It says here that a pack of kittens is called a Kindle, while a pack of adult cats is called a chowder. Another fun fact about animals, it says that since more than 80 million U.S. households have dogs, with 42% of those households having more than one, you'll have no trouble making a guest list. And then the final fact here of animals is parrots need love too. As the 4th most popular pet and with vocal cords louder than any ambulance, they'll let you know if they're not getting attention by screaming at you. So there you go. Parrots, if they want attention and they don't feel like they're getting in it, they're going to scream at you until you give it to them. Why do we love this holiday? Well, pets make for great listeners. They don't talk back to you. And of course they listen to you. They give you comfort. They make you feel good. And they are just flat out adorable. So folks, happy National Pet Day to everyone out there. Before we go, I just want to make a few quick remarks about the Kentucky basketball team. They are rocking and rolling. They had another great win last night. Usually don't play Wednesday games, but it was a fun Wednesday game to watch because they defeated Vanderbilt 82-61. Vanderbilt is a three-point shooting team. I was nervous going into this game. With Vandy, once they get hot, it's hard to slow them down. We never let them get hot. When they did get hot, we would just get hotter. We would just get better. So they defeated Vandy and put another W in the SEC win column. They got a huge game coming up against number 4 Alabama this Saturday at 6 o'clock. I hate Alabama. I hate their team. I can't stand Nate Oates. So I hope that we put a beating on them. But there you go, folks. Go Big Blue. And before you know it, March is going to be here. Speaking of March, here on Off the Cuff, we always, for the last 5 or 6 years, we've always done a March Madness series, and that is complete coverage of the March Madness tournament. It's in addition to these episodes here on Off the Cuff. It's just a special series that I air every Wednesday night live on the radio of me and my March Madness crew coming in and talking about the tournament. And we break down things from the game, we break down coaching changes, and everything dealing with March Madness. And you'll get more info on when those shows will air when it gets closer to it. Of course, we can't start doing the show until the tournament starts. The tournament selection Sunday is March the 16th, and I believe like the first radio show of March Madness for us here on Off the Cuff will be the following week, that Wednesday. But I will give more information as the time progresses. Nikki on the show thread says, I have my own zoo. She's got horses, goats, pigs, rabbits, dogs, cats, leopard, geckos, and mice. Wow, that is a zoo of your own. Maybe you can charge entry to let people see your display of animals, Nikki. But folks, that pretty much wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff. If you liked what you heard today, you will probably like our previous episodes. We archive them all on podcast. You can follow the show on podcast on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me, the host, on social media at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the king of radio, Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff. I will see you and catch you down the road.